Hi, today I'm going to carry on with the 2022 paper 1, the practical paper, and we're going to start on section B. So this carries on with the X-space systems, and these X-space systems has stored the details of all the crew and officers in a text file called crewmembers.txt. Recently, a training course was held with some of the crews and officers who wished to be promoted. The course was followed by a test, and the results of the test have been captured and stored in a text file called testresults.txt. Based on their test results, the following criteria apply for promotion. The crew member must receive at least 75% to be promoted to an officer with the rank of 1 and title of ensign, and officers must achieve a minimum score according to their current rank and title. If the officer achieves the minimum score, their rank will increase by 1. The captain rank 5, cannot increase their rank even if they have passed the test. So all that information, you just need to keep in mind. You'll use it later in the exam. You need to know where to find this information so that you can refer to it. And here's a table with all the different ranks and their scores. So if the officer has the rank of 5 and is the captain, they can write the test but cannot be further promoted regardless of their test scores. The details of the crew members and officers have been stored in a text file called crewmembers.txt, and here are the first 10 lines of the text file. And you can see that some lines are longer than others, so that means we're probably going to have inheritance and be creating an array of the two different types of objects. So here are your objects. A crew member, the details for a crew member. You've got the full name, the hashtag crew ID, hashtag department, and those are pretty self-explanatory. Then we've got the officer. The details for the officer are the full name, crew ID, department, and then the rank and date promoted. So the rank is just an integer representing the rank of the officer. So if you remember this little table, there's the rank. And the date promoted is a date value in the format dd/mm/yyyy. And we need to have the officer must inherit from the crew member, as shown there. So let's start our program. We're going to use the class diagram here and create the crew member class. But before we do, I like to go to a few questions down where we make the user interface. And I'm going to look at what the name will be of that class. It will be crew member UE. So I'm going to create a new project in NetBeans and call it, and it's an application class, and I'm going to call it crew member UE. And I just find that working this way, when I look at my project here, I can see that there's my new class, crewmemberue.java, and I'm going to make sure that this folder just above it, that I put all of my other classes in that folder. So my first class is going to be called crew member. So right-click, new Java class, crew member. And let's start coding. We are going to use the class diagram. So it's going to be the minus is private, then it's got to be a string, and then full name. And then private again, and that's an integer, int, and crew ID is the name of the variable. Then again, private and string and department. Now the next line you can see is underlined. That means that it must be a static variable and it must be set equal to 0. So I'm going to go public int, static. It's a static because it's underlined. It's an integer and it's going to be num promoted crew, and I will set it equal to 0 like that. Okay, And let's start with the constructor now. So we're going to right click and insert code, constructor, and let's say select all because we want all 3 fields as our parameters, and we generate. Now, only thing is if you do work this way, be very careful that your parameters are incorrectly named, and you must change them to the names given in the class diagram, which is in FN for full name, and in CID for crew ID, and in DT for department. So I'm going to double click there on full name and type in FN. And then I'll double click and type in FN again on that one. Don't change the one on the left-hand side. I've often seen students do that. That's not a good idea. That changes everything, and that is incorrect. Okay, so we've got in CID there, double click on crew ID, in CID, double click on department, in DT, and double click there, in DT. Okay, so that's the constructor done. Let's just read what it says. Nothing special about the constructor here in 2.3, then 2.4. Accessor methods for all 3. So we're going to click down here, right click, insert code. We want our getter methods, accessors, and we want the crew ID, department, and full name, not non-promoted crew. And generate, and they're all ready. And then it says 2.5, add a toString method to the class that will return a string containing all the information of the class in the following format. So you can see it's got full name. And if you look there below, you can see the full name is the actual field, Lamla Western. Then there's a tab, then the words crew ID : that you can see is hard-coded, then a space, then crew ID is the field, then a tab, then a square bracket. Can you see the square bracket over here in the line below? So it's a square bracket, and then department is the field and another square bracket. So we're going to go public string to string. It's really not worth generating this automatically because you're going to have to change whatever it generates automatically anyway. So we're going to go return here and create our string. So first full name plus quote \t, then the words crew ID, so crew space ID, oops, and another space, and then field crew ID, then plus, we want quote \t and a square bracket, and then plus department, and then plus quote and close square bracket. And I think that's everything that is required. Let's just double check full name, a tab, crew ID, space, then crew ID, the field, then a \t and a square bracket and department and etc. Okay, so that's all good. We can go on to question 3. So go back to, don't forget to save often. Do you see these 2 little blocks at the top? We click save quite often. When it goes gray, it means you've saved. So we're going to create the officer class. So right click, new Java class, and this one is called officer. We're going to go, actually this one must inherit from the crew member class. So we just got to say here, extends crew member. And over here, we're going to go private, int rank, and then private, that's a date field. So we're going to make it a local date, and then date promoted. Okay, and then we've got another static field. So this one is public, and it's static int num promoted officers. And it must be set equal to 0. Okay. Oh, and now my local date is underlined. I need to click on the light bulb and add the import for that. And let's just save. I'm not sure why this is underlined in red. Let's just look there. Okay, we'll see if that comes right just now. We're now going to do our constructor. So it's going to be public officer. And let's go string in fn, comma, int in CID, comma, and string in DT, comma, int in RK, comma, and then local dates in DP. Okay, put our curly brackets, and we need to call the constructor of the crew member class. So we're going to go super to call the crew member class constructor. Whenever we say super, we're actually saying crew member, right? We're going to say in fn, comma, that's for the full name, in CID is the crew ID, and in DT is the department. And then we need to set the rank equal to in RK, and we need to set the date promoted equal to in DT. No, wait, is it in DT? What's it? In DP. We already had in DT. Okay. Don't forget to often, I can see my lines are getting out of line there, so go Alt-Shift-F to indent nicely. And then let's carry on. We've done the constructor now. Let's see, that was 3.4. It says add an accessor for the rank property. So let's generate it automatically. Insert code getter, and just the rank, we want a getter. And then it says code a method named getTitle that will return a string containing the title of the officer based on their rank using the table below. We're going to have to do a switch case here. We can look over here that the getTitle returns a string. So it's going to be public string getTitle. And let's create a string at the top called the title and set it equal to the empty string, just quote. And then let's do a switch case. Now, the shortcut for a switch case is SW tab. Okay, you get an instant switch case that way. What are we testing? We are testing rank. And according to the field rank, which would contain an integer, we will return the different titles. We're testing rank. If it's a 1, then we must set the title equal to quote ensign. Okay, case 2. Actually, we can copy this. What I like to do is copy my own code like that. Control C, Control V, and I'm going to need it for, that will be for 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And we just go and change everything. So I'm going to make it case 2, case 3, case 4, and case 5. And then I'm going to double click on ensign and type lieutenant. I'm going to double click on ensign again and type LT commander. Double click on ensign again and type commander. And double click on ensign again and type captain. And there we go. Now that doesn't look like a very pretty switch case. Go Alt-Shift-F to tidy up. And you can see that there's still that's underlined in red because we have not returned the title yet. We are supposed to return a string from this method because it's a string type method. So we need to go return title. And that's done. Right, there's the whole method if you want to see it. And we can go to 3.7 now. Code a toString method that will override the parent class's toString method and combine the title using the getTitle method in question 3.6 to the string returned by the toString method of the crew member class in the following format. And you can see you've got full name, crew ID department. Over here, can you see that all of this, all of that is actually the parent class toString. So we need to call the parent class toString and then add space and title. So let's go create our toString. We're going to go public string toString. And we're going to call the parent class constructor. So we can say return super dot toString. Remember, every time we say super, we're calling the parent class. So we're calling the parent, we're saying crew member dot toString plus, and then we need to add the rest of that, the space, so quote, space, quote, plus, and the title. How do we get the title? We use the method we just wrote because there's no such thing as title in our instance variables at the top. There's only rank and date promoted. But we can get the title by using the getTitle method. So plus getTitle, bracket, bracket, and that's what we need to return. All right, and then code a method named promote that will increase the rank of the officer by 1 if they have a rank of 4 or below. The method should update their date promoted to the current date and increase the number of promoted officers by 1. Let's look at the promote method in the class diagram. Can you see it's plus promote bracket brackets? In other words, it's a void method. It does not return anything. There's no colon and something behind it. It's just a void method. So let's go plus is public. If it's a method that does not return anything, it's a void, and it's called promote. Okay. And so there's my header done. Now I can reread the question. Must increase the rank of the officer by 1 if they have a rank of 4 or below. So we need to test the rank. If rank is less than or equal to 4 or below, then what are we going to do? We're going to go rank plus plus. Increase it by 1. Is that all? The method should update the date promoted to the current date. So we need to say that. Date promoted equals local date dot now bracket brackets. Okay. Change the date promoted to the current date and increase the number of promoted officers by 1. Where's that field? That's the field, non-promoted officers. I don't feel like typing it in again, so I'm going to highlight it and copy it. And let's paste it there and just put plus plus. Increase it by 1. All right. Should update the date promoted to the current date and increase the number of promoted officers by 1. Is that everything? I think so. All right. So let's save our class again with 2 little blocks there. And you see they've gone gray because I've saved. So that's 1 more class done. And we can go on to question 4. So again, I'm going to come back to my projects, click on the folder where everything must go, and right-click, new, Java class. And this one is called Crew Member Manager. Crew Member Manager. Okay, and finish. Add 2 instance variables to this class, an array called CR, capable of storing 80 crew member or officer objects. Name this array CR. So you always use the parent class. Our parent class is called crew member. Remember to put your square brackets because it's an array. CR equals new crew member. And we put square brackets and we want 80 of them. Whoops, and I'm sure it should be, well, if they're instance variables, then it must be private. Okay, don't forget to make it private. And also private, oh, it does say these 2 variables must not be accessible outside the class, so don't forget. And then the second one, an integer called size to keep track of the number of objects added. So that's going to be size equals 0. Oops, and it's an integer. Right, so that's question 4.2. Next, create a constructor for the class that will read the contents of the text file, crewmembers.txt. Each line of the file contains information for a single crew member or an officer object. Your method should do the following. Read each line from the file, extract the data, instantiate the appropriate type of object, which would be a crew member or an officer, using the data extracted from the line. Add the crew member or officer object to the next available position in the array and increase the size appropriately. And that's 11 marks. It would be quite a big method. Remember that the method will be called crew member manager. So I can double click that and copy it. And I'm going to go public and crew member manager, bracket, brackets. There's my method. Okay, and now we need to go and set ourselves up to open the text file for reading. So it's scanner sc file equals new scanner, brackets, new file, brackets, quote, crew members.txt. And we're going to have to do a whole lot of imports. So you're going to click on the light bulb 3 times after you've typed in this line 3 times. First time, import for scanner. Second time, import for file class. Third time, don't choose this throws clause part, add throws clause. Don't use that one. Pick the second option on your third time of clicking the light bulb. Surround statement with try catch. Okay, that's going to make sure if they say that the question often will say that if the file cannot be found, then you know your method must not crash. Okay, then don't forget to change this line that says logger.getLogger. Just highlight it and delete it, and then instead go system.out.println and just say file not found. That's the best way to do it. All right. So now we must read each line from the file and extract the data. So we've opened the file for reading. Now we can do our while loop. While sc file dot has next. What are we saying there? We're saying, are there still lines left to be read in this file, in this crewmembers.txt, this text file? And if the while loop is true, in other words, yes, there are still lines left to be read, then we're going to go and read a line and split it up and then create a new object. So we need a string to read the line. We'll say string line equals sc file dot next line. Now we've got the line from the text file, and I want to show you what the text file looks like on the screen. So I'm going to go get it. So here's the text file. I'm going to copy these 2 text files that we're going to need. The crewmembers.txt is the one we're looking at now. I can right click and copy. Then I need to go to my NetBeans projects, and wherever you've put your crew member UE, that folder called crew member UE, remember your project is called crew member UE. This is where you must paste your files, right here. So I'm going to open this crewmembers.txt just to show you what it looks like. Okay, there it is in Notepad. So we want to read these lines from the text file. Remember that we're at the top of our loop. While scfile.hasNext, yes, there are lots of lines still to be read, lots. And every time we say string line equals scfile.next line, this whole line of text gets loaded from the text file into that string called line. But now we need to split it up into the full name, Taylor Wenzel, then the 892, which is her crew member ID, then engineering, which is, I think, the department, then 2 is her rank, and the date, which is, I think, the date she was employed or whatever it was. Or her last, yeah, well, anyway, date promoted, yes. Okay, so we need to split that line up. Now, up to now, I've declared a second scanner class object for the last exam I did with you. This time I'm going to use the split method. It's a different technique. You can go string. You're going to create an array. I like to call mine TOC, short for tokens. And you're going to say line dot split. And in the brackets of the split method, you're going to put quote and hashtag. Now, what that does, let's look at the text file again. It's going to take this line and sort of just instantly make a new array with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells. The first cell, TOC square bracket 0, will contain Taylor Wenzel. Second cell, TOC square bracket 1, will contain 892. Third cell, TOC square brackets 2, will contain engineering, and so on. So it makes an instant array for you that contains all of the data from the line that you've just read. So that makes it nice and easy. You can then either put it all into little variables, or you can directly use the data, but I think it's better if you put it all into variables. So we're going to take string fn, short for full name, equals TOC square bracket 0. Just helps us to know where we're at. Then we've got the crew ID. I'm just going to look here at my, okay, that's an integer, all right? So we need to make sure we convert it into an integer. I'm going to go int, let's say CID equals, we need to convert TOC square brackets 1 into an integer. So I'm going to go integer dot parse int, and then TOC square brackets 1. And then the next one is a string again. So string DEP for department equals TOC square brackets 2. Now, we're not sure whether we've got a crew member object or an officer object. Well, definitely this one is an officer. You can see why, because it's got 5 pieces of data. The next one you can see will be a crew member object because it's only got 3 pieces of data. So we need to test the length of the array. We're going to say if TOC.length, you know, TOC.length tells you the size of the array. If it's equal to 3, then we're ready to declare our new crew member object, right? So we can say CR square bracket size equals new crew member, and in the brackets we're going to put FN for the full name, CID for the crew ID, and DEP for the department. Remember that if you look at the crew member, you need to put a string, an integer, and a string when you call the constructor of the crew member, which is exactly what we're doing here. We're calling the constructor of the crew member class. So we're putting a full name, which is a string, CID, which is an integer, and DEP, which is the department, is a string. But if that array does not contain 3 objects, then it must contain 5. So we need to go and get those two other objects, those two other cells. And the fourth cell, which is TOC 3, is the rank. So let's just, is that an integer or a string? Let's just go and check. It's an integer. We need to convert that to an integer. So we'll just say int rk for rank equals integer dot pass int, and we'll put TOC square brackets 3, and then we'll go string. Oh no, wait, it's not string, it's a date. We've got a local date object there. So we need to go and read the date. We've got the date in TOC square bracket 4, but we need to convert it to a local date object. So local date, let's just say, what is this? This is the date promoted, I think. BP, we'll just call it for short, equals local date dot pass, and in the brackets, we'll put TOC square brackets 4. And if I remember correctly, the date, let's just look there, the date is in the correct format for being converted. Only thing is we need to do our import here. Now that we've got all 5 pieces of data, we're ready to create the new officer object, if this is a line that contains the officer's data, equals new officer. And in the brackets, FN for full name, CID for crew ID, DP for department, RK for rank, and DP for date promoted. And we can go size plus plus, and then yeah, that's it. We just need to make sure that when the while loop finally ends, you can check where your while loop begins and ends by clicking on the brackets. Shows you the matching bracket. And we just need to make sure that we close our file, sc file.close, when we finished reading it, the whole file. All right, and by then we will have all our cells of our array, or not all, but as many as lines as we've read, we'll have them all filled. And then the other thing we need to do, code a toString method to combine the values of each object in the array CR into a string. Each crew member's or officer's information should appear on a separate line. Use the object's toString methods that you created. Okay, so let's go there. Where are we? That is the end of the constructor. Oh, there's my close bracket of the class. Okay, I always like to make sure I'm creating my methods in the right place. So public string to string. And we're going to create a string. Let's call it temp for temporary equals quote quote. Now we want to look through the whole array. Remember CR, which we declared at the top, contains all the crew members and the officers. And we want to add all that data to this temporary string. So in order to do that, we need a for loop that can loop through the whole array. It's going to start at 0. I just went FOR tab, if you're wondering where that came from. FOR and the tab key. It must go to size, not to 10. And I'm going to, in the loop, I'm just going to say temp equals temp plus. We can say temp plus equals for short. And then I need to go and fetch CR square brackets I, and I must go dot to string. Now the dot to string is optional, but let's just put it in for the sake of clarity. And don't forget to put a plus quote backslash n for a new line. Okay, you want to keep putting new lines in your temporary string so that each crew member is on a new line, right? And we will just have to return the string at the end, return temp, and that's that done. Don't forget to save again. right? And now we can go on to crew member UE. So we've already got crew member UE. It's here. Just need to remove these comments. Oops. Actually, I've got a shortcut that does that for me. And okay, so write code to create, we've done that. Create a crew member manager object in an appropriate place in the class using an appropriate method. So we just have to go crew member manager. Let's just call it CMM equals new crew member manager. Bracket, brackets. What are we doing when we do that? When we say crew member manager bracket, bracket, we are actually calling this method. See, it's called crew member bracket, bracket. We're calling that. And in so doing, we're opening the text file to be read. We're doing this whole while loop and loading all the data from the text file into our array. That's what we're doing over here. We're calling that method. And we're creating a member of that class. I mean, an instance of that class. But we've now loaded the text file into the array, and the array is live in RAM, and we can go and read from it and work with it. Now we need to display a list of all the information about the crew members or officers using the appropriate member method in the crew member manager class. Well, there's only one other method there. It's called toString. So that's what we need to do. We're going to have to print. We go system.out.println. And if we just print CMM without putting .toString, it automatically calls the toString method. But we can also, it's optional, we can also put .toString bracket, bracket, just so we know what's happening. But you can, it's optional, you can leave the .toString bracket, bracket out. It's save and run. This is the proof of the pudding, where you can see if your code is working or not. Let's open that up and run. Sometimes this is where it bombs. Oh, yes, my date time formatter. Okay, so the date is not good. I do need to actually put the date time formatter there. And I'm going to go back to my crew member manager. And over here, where I just said local date dot parts, I need to go comma date time formatter dot of, and I'm going to go quote. Sorry, let me move this to the side again so I can just check what format the date is in, because they did tell us at the top. It's dd/mm/yyyy. Let's put that in dd/mm/yyyy. And don't forget to do the import for the datetime formatter class. So it's not .of, it's .of pattern. And that's, let me show you what that looks like. So we've got local date dp equals local date dot parse. Before I just had toc4, but I need to put comma datetime formatter dot of pattern bracket quote dd/mm/yyyy. And hopefully this will work. Just save, go back to crew member UE and run it and see what we get. Ah, now that looks better. So there's Taylor Wenzel at the top, crew ID 892, Department Engineering, Lieutenant. Let me just check. It's looking just how they wanted it. Right. So there are no dates there at the moment, right? So that's great. It's showing just as they've got it on their page. And we will carry on with question 6 next time. Thanks for watching, and I hope you can practice this. Try it on your own. I hope that the practice helps you a lot.